Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here to give you guys my WWE Marquee matches review, and today's match is going to be the Money in the Bank ladder match from 2014. Now, obviously, this is a big difference from the SmackDown Money in the Bank match from 2011. So I'll kind of explain what's changed from the 3 years that that match took place versus this one. Obviously, this was pretty that the brand split had been over for 3 years. It ended a little bit after Money in the Bank 2011, and then obviously in this case that if you won the Money in the Bank briefcase, you didn't you weren't just um, you could have challenged for any championship. But the thing was there was only one world championship around this time because they unify both the WWE and World Heavyweight Championships at TOCO Tables, Ladders, and Chairs 2013. So that was interesting. So you could only challenge for one World Championship. So those were kind of like some of, I guess, the main differences. Obviously, the roster was different, and obviously this took place in a different venue, but you obviously would expect that from 3 years ago. And the case actually was different because um, this briefcase didn't really. I mean, yes, you were limited to one more title, but um, you weren't really limited to a brand. They used to have like a different colored briefcases, one for Raw, one for SmackDown, but that wasn't the case anymore. So those were kind of like some of the main differences going into this match. But this match also had some storylines in it. There was a little bit of a storyline going into this Money in the Bank ladder match. Let me say who the participants were in this match first. You had the participants of Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler, Jack Swagger with his manager Zeb Coulter inside, Kofi Kingston, and Rob Van Dam. And really there was some storyline going into this matchup. On the Go Home edition of Monday Night Raw, COO Triple H announced all of these competitors except for Dean Ambrose was going to be in this match. This is when the Authority storyline was kind of had been kind of taking shape for a while when Triple H and Stephanie McMahon both had turned heel at SummerSlam 2013, mainly Triple H. And obviously it was already kind of it had been going on for a while. And what happened is they ended up recruiting Seth Rollins. What happened is Seth Rollins was once a member of a faction known as the Shield alongside Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns. And Triple H had been feuded with the Shield for a while, but he was never able to defeat the Shield. So what happened is Seth Rollins turned his back on the Shield, stabbed him in the back, and joined up with the Authority. And Seth Rollins always talked about how he did what was best for business, and that was kind of the whole slogan of the Authority storyline. And it was a huge moment. It was a huge heel turn for Seth Rollins, probably one of the biggest surprises of 2014. And that was really the main storyline in this match, was the storyline between Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. Now, originally, Triple H didn't announce Dean Ambrose in this matchup because he didn't want Dean Ambrose in this matchup. But Dean Ambrose kept trying to get his hands on Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins urged Triple H to put Dean Ambrose in this matchup because if he didn't, the whole Money in the Bank ladder match would have spilled into chaos. So Triple H agreed to do what Seth Rollins said, and that's exactly what happened. Now, also, you got to remember, too, that originally Bad News Barrett, who was the Intercontinental Champion going into this matchup at the time, was supposed to be in this matchup, but he was injured by Jack Swagger, so it didn't end up working out that way. So, yeah, which I remember actually ranting about that, and I remember that's like one of my most popular videos on this channel was when Jack Swagger injured Bad News Barrett, so I find that kind of interesting. But yeah, that was kind of going into the match itself. This match took place at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view in 2014, and the date was June 29th, 2014. Now, ironically enough, as I was actually at this show because I bought tickets to go to the show, which looking back probably was kind of a mistake because I ended up having to go to North Carolina the next day, and I had to get up like wicked early, and yeah, it was kind of a mistake in a way, but so that was weird. Um, but I remember going into this show, being very excited because I had bought tickets for it, and um, yeah, yeah, like I was talking about going into the show, I remember being excited for it, and um, yeah, going into the show, um, and watching this match back now, um, it's definitely very different than watching it live. I still think this match is enjoyable, but I remember it more watching it live. And some of you notice in the Money in the Bank ladder matches when you watch it on TV versus watching it in person, you kind of miss a lot of the spot. The camera kind of misses a lot of the spots, and um, I remember like more spots had happened. Um, Off camera than kind of on camera in a way. I won't really go over them because it was 3 years, because it was 4 years since passed since I watched this match, so I'm not really gonna go over the spots. Um, but let's kind of go over the Money in the Bank ladder match in itself. Um, so you have the competitors and Dean Ambrose. I kind of liked how he immediately came out there. And actually, I didn't go over the commentators. The commentators for this show were JBL, Michael Cole, and Jerry the King Lawler. But Dean Ambrose immediately comes out there and he attacks Seth Rollins, beats the crap out of him, which I kind of liked because that was the whole story of this matchup was Dean Ambrose wanted to get his hands on Seth Rollins, so that's exactly what happened in this match. He just immediately attacked him, throws him over the timekeeper's area and beats the crap out of him. And all the other competitors just kind of fight amongst themselves. Kofi Kingston hits Trouble in Paradise immediately on Dolph Ziggler. Jack Swagger lays out Kofi Kingston. Rob Van Dam lays out Jack Swagger. And Kofi Kingston then lays out OVD. And Kofi Kingston tries to grab the briefcase, but Dean Ambrose tips the ladder over. And Kofi Kingston actually ends up landing on his feet on the ropes and just diving right onto all the other competitors on the outside. And then Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins continue to fight each other. Um, De- um, Seth Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. Dean Ambrose set up a ladder in the corner, and Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins tried to suplex each other on the ladder that was set up in the corner, but um, eventually, they ended up kind of failing. Then Dean Ambrose had a double arm suplex right into the ladder, right onto Seth Rollins. And then Dean Ambrose tried to climb the ladder. He was stopped, I think, by Rob Van Dam. And Rob Van Dam went on a little bit of a roll in this matchup. He had a rolling thunder um, onto Seth Rollins while he was in the while he was on the ladder in the corner. He ended up hitting a 5-star frog splash on Jack Swagger, a big kick to the head under Kofi Kingston, and Kofi Kingston hit some impressive stuff in this matchup. He hit a really cool dive onto LVD. He ended up hitting the boom drop right onto Dolph Ziggler while he was on the ladder, and Kofi Kingston ended up setting up. I know this isn't in order, but I'm just going to go over the match spot for spot. Kofi Kingston ended up setting up a ladder across the corner, and him and while RVD and Seth Rollins were fighting. He pushes RVD off, and then he hits a backdrop, sending Seth Rollins crashing onto the ladder, and then the ladder kind of falls over, and Seth Rollins ends up hitting back first again on the ladder, which was cool. And then Dolph Ziggler, he really didn't do much in this match, which was kind of surprising because he normally bumps like crazy. He was kind of there for the bumps in the matchup because RVD had a super kick on him, Jack Swagger um, hit a super kick on him, and yeah, it was weird. But he ended up getting on a little bit of a lull. We hit a zigzag on the ladder onto Kofi Kingston. Well, he had a zigzag onto Kofi Kingston onto the ladder, and then he went to grab the briefcase, and Jack Swagger prevented him. Got him into an ankle lock, and there was a spot in this match when LVD and Jack Swagger were going. Well, Kofi Kingston and LVD were going at it, and Swagger hits Kofi with the ladder, knocking him off the turnbuckles. And Jack Swagger like sets up LVD on a ladder like he's gonna superplex him off of it, but then LVD fights him off, and LVD teases like he's gonna go for the 5-star frog splash, but Seth Rollins knocks LVD off the ladder, and then LVD goes for the 5-star frog. Well, no, I already said that. And then Seth Rollins, and then Dean Ambrose fights with Seth Rollins. He superplexes him off the ladder, and the way that Ambrose landed looked nuts. And then Dean Ambrose got planted, got thrown face first into the ladder. Swagger, slingshotted Dolph Ziggler into the ladder, which knocked Dean Ambrose out of the ring. And then eventually Dean Ambrose, there's a spot in this match where his shoulder just completely pops out of socket because you can see that his shoulder was hurting him. So he gets taken back and gets taken medical attention. And I remember watching that live, how much people booed. I remember booing myself because I thought it was done as a storyline so that way Dean Ambrose would be out of the match, but apparently it was legit. And what else happened in this match, though? And then everything I kind of mentioned, everyone just kind of continues brawling with each other. And Dolph Ziggler had tried to grab the briefcase, but Jack Swagger puts him in the Patriot lock or the ankle lock, whatever. And Ziggler's able to fight him off, and then he goes to grab the briefcase, but Seth Rollins hits him gets in the ring and hits Ziggler in the leg with a chair, and he beat the crap out of Dolph Ziggler. And at this point, everybody had chanted for Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose runs back out, attacks Seth Rollins, beats the crap out of him with the chair, throws him out of the ring, and then he goes to grab the Money in the Bank briefcase, and who comes out? None other than Kane. This made sense, obviously, because Kane and Seth Rollins were aligned with each other, and because they were in the Authority, so Kane comes out and attacks Dean Ambrose, lays him out with a chokeslam, and then probably the worst tombstone I've ever seen in my life. It looked even worse live, but on TV it's pretty bad as well, where Kane hits the tombstone of Dean Ambrose. I don't know what was going on here, but it just looked like a really bad tombstone. And then Seth Rollins climbs the ladder, grabs the briefcase, and becomes the Mr. Money in the Bank contract holder. And then afterwards, Triple H and Stephanie McMahon come out and celebrate with Seth Rollins. And then that was kind of the match. Overall, this match is a great ladder match. It's probably one of the best Money in the Bank ladder matches. I don't really know how far how far it is on, all-time greats of Money in the Bank. Ladder matches, I probably have to watch them all again and maybe do a ranking video on them, but it's definitely one of the best ones I've seen. I think I enjoy this one a lot as well because I was there live. If I had to give it a star rating, probably back then I would have given it 4 3/4, just because I was there live. But since watching it on TV, I'd probably say 4.5. It's definitely a great Money in the Bank ladder match, and definitely watching it back now, I feel satisfied. Because now let's go over where all these superstars are today. Now, obviously, let's go over the commentators first. JBL, pretty much is a part-time commentator now. He's doing charities for kids now and stuff. Michael Cole is the top play-by-play guy for Monday Night Raw. And Jerry the King Lawler is a part-time commentator. He has his own podcast and stuff. And then, as for Bad News Barrett, I'll just say that he did end up returning. He ended up having at first vacate the Intercontinental Championship, and then he ended up coming back. He shortly won back the Intercontinental Championship from Dolph Ziggler, and then he lost it at WrestleMania 31, and then he won King of the Ring, and then pretty much he was a part of the League of Nations, and then he was pretty much out of the company from that point. And now he's in Defiant Wrestling. I think he's the general manager or the commentator, or both. And then as for Seth Rollins, and I forgot to mention, this Marquee match, I forgot to mention it online, was hosted by Charlie Caruso. It's not really important, but I still got to mention it. But as for Seth Rollins, he ended up, him and Dean Ambrose continued their feud. They were supposed to have a match at Battleground, but then Dean Ambrose attacked Seth Rollins, and the match never happened because there was just too much chaos going on. So then they had the match at SummerSlam, and the Lumberjack match with Seth Rollins won. And then Seth Rollins took out Dean Ambrose with the curb stomp through the cinder blocks. And then Dean Ambrose returned at Night of Champions, attacked Seth Rollins, and at Hell in a Cell, they had like the blow-off match for a little while where Seth Rollins prevailed again, and then Seth Rollins went on to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase at WrestleMania 31 during the triple threat match with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar and won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And then Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins restarted their feud again, having matches at Elimination Chamber where they did the Dusty finish, where they teased that Dean Ambrose had won the title when he really didn't. And then at Money in the Bank 2015, Seth Rollins retained the WWE World Heavyweight Championship in the ladder match. And then Seth Rollins continued his reign as WWE World Heavyweight Champion. He's one of the only superstar. I think he's the only superstar to hold both the WWE and United States Championship when he defeated John Cena at SummerSlam 2015, but then lost in United Champions the next month. And then he ended up getting injured in Dublin, Ireland at a live event on, I have the date right here. November 4th, 2015, after suffering an injury, and he ended up having to vacate the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, ended his reign at 220 days, and then Seth Rollins ended up returning at Extreme Rules 2016, and attacked WWE World Heavyweight Champion Roman Reigns, and then they had a match for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Seth Rollins regained it. That night, Dean Ambrose won the Money in the Bank briefcase, cashed it in on Seth Rollins, and then became the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And that night's very significant because because that night all three members of the Shield were WWE World Heavyweight Champion. I still think that's a cool night. And then Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose continued their feud again. They had matches on Raw and SmackDown for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, where Dean Ambrose retained both times. And then they had the Shield Triple Threat match where Dean Ambrose prevailed, pinning Roman Reigns. And then they did the draft, and Dean Ambrose was drafted to SmackDown. Seth Rollins was drafted to Raw, so they didn't really have much of a association with each other. And then Seth Rollins shortly turned face, feuded with Triple H, and beat Triple H at WrestleMania because they ended the Authority. The Authority storyline was pretty much over around 2016. And then Seth Rollins kind of floundered for a little bit, and then Dean Ambrose was drafted back to Raw, and they reformed their tag team and beat the Bar for the Raw tag team titles at SummerSlam and held them until like about November. And then Dean Ambrose ended up getting injured, so that kind of put Dean Ambrose out of commission. And then Seth Rollins ended up winning. Ended up having that unbelievable year this year where he lasted a long time in the Gauntlet match, had a really good performance in the Elimination Chamber, won the IC title at WrestleMania 34, retained it in the ladder match at the Greatest Royal Rumble, and then this was having an unbelievable year, and then he lost the title recently to Dolph Ziggler, and they're going to have a 30-minute Iron Man match at Extreme Rules. So Seth Rollins has had a pretty damn good career since this pay-per-view. And then obviously I kind of mentioned Dean Ambrose's already. Dean Ambrose, though, would have a couple of Intercontinental Championship victories, and obviously was the Raw Tag Team Champions and stuff. So Dean Ambrose has had a pretty good career as well. And who else was in this match? Dolph Ziggler pretty much has had a pretty mediocre career. He's had a few Intercontinental Championship reigns and some big spots, but they really haven't followed up on him. I don't really care. Jack Swagger has since been released from the company. He actually ended up turning face the next night, but then pretty much he was phased out of the company, and he ended up being released in 2017, which I don't really care about. Zeb Coulter, I think he's still in Impact Wrestling, but I'm not sure. Yeah, he's in Impact Wrestling right now. Kofi Kingston, shortly after, formed the New Day with Big E and Xavier Woods, and they've probably been one of the best tag teams, or the best factions in WWE, and have had numerous tag team title reigns, so that's good for them. And then Rob Van Dam, this would be his final run in WWE. He would be completely done in the summer, and now he's working in Indies, so that's good for RVD. And then pretty much that's everybody that was in this match overall. Everybody's the people that benefited from this match. Well, I would say Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, which makes sense because they were the new stars. Dolph Ziggler benefited short term, but not with a long term rise. Kofi Kingston didn't really benefit from this match. It was just kind of coincidence. And then RVD was already an established name. He didn't really need to benefit, and Jack Swagger was just kind of there. So Everyone's pretty much benefited from this match, and that's my review of Marquee matches for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Please make sure you guys like, comment, and share this video for more content. Make sure you got also people will watch it. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel for more content and click on the bell so that way every time you upload a video, you guys will get the notifications for it. Make sure you guys do the same thing for my CM Brothers and on the Talkinator channels, and that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.